And Mayor, you are recording and you are live.
Thank you. Welcome to the Centerville City Council meeting of January 5th, 2021. The first meeting we're having in 2021. Hopefully everybody is writing 2021 on their checks, if you write checks anymore, and not 2020. We're grateful to all that have joined us this night. Let's make sure that we're able to have a meeting by doing a roll call vote. I'm Mayor Wilkinson, and we'll do a roll call vote starting with Councilman McEwen.
Present.
Councilwoman Meekum.
Present.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Present.
And Councilman Ince.
Present.
And Councilwoman Fillmore.
Present.
Thank you. It looks like we have all 5 council members present, and thank you for joining us, everyone. Before we start anything, let me read the determination. In accordance with Utah Code 52-4-2074 of the Utah Open and Public Meeting Act, I have determined that conducting an electronic meeting of the Centerville City Council with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. This determination is based on the facts and circumstances surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. Concerning the continued number of COVID-19 case counts in Utah, meeting in an anchor location presents substantial risk to the health and safety of those in attendance because physical distancing measures may be difficult to maintain at City Hall. Thank you, everybody. That's a requirement that y'all know we have to do. And for visitors, that's something that we have to do that's required by law. Tonight we have with us, for our prayer thought, we have Pastor Lauren Pankritz. Pastor, you're welcome to turn on your video now. Well, Happy New Year to you. Thank you for being with us. We're thrilled that we have the pleasure of having you in our first meeting this year. So we'll turn it over to you for any thoughts or prayer that you may have for us.
Well, appreciate it, and thanks for inviting me to come. It is the beginning of a new year, and I know you may have been as excited to turn 2020 over and come into 2021 as I've been. So I'm excited about that. We were hoping that all the problems would magically go away, but you know, there's still some things that we can be praying for, and I'm just grateful for all the work that you all do for our city. So I appreciate all that. And I would absolutely love to start the year off by just praying for you guys today. So if you could just bow with me in prayer, that'd be great. So Heavenly Father, I'm just humbled and honored to be with our councilmen and councilwomen today, those who have given so much of themselves to the public good. Lord, we know that you are honored as others take reins of leadership and use that to commend what is good and to condemn that which is evil. And so we're grateful, God, for the role that these men and women play in shaping our city into what it is today. Lord, we pray that you would continue to give them incredible wisdom. Lord, we know that this is not an easy time to be in leadership. And so I am just asking, God, and hoping, Lord, that you will just provide our city with the leaders that we need and the leadership that we need and the wisdom that we need today. A lot of challenges that are facing us today that are new challenges, and God, let them not grow weary of doing good. And so, Lord, we pray that you give them an energy and a strength and a wisdom to govern well. And we pray for the many things that face our city today. God, we think of Lord, those that are in need in our community, and we're grateful for how many people step up to serve those that are in need. But Lord, we just pray, God, that you'd give us just a great vision for how to care for those in our city that need help. And so we pray that you'd just give us that wisdom as well. So Lord, we are grateful for the place that we live, grateful for a wonderful city, grateful for just a beautiful landscape that you've given us. And we pray, Lord, that this coming year would be a tremendous year for our city, and we're grateful for our leaders. So we pray for them today. In your name, Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Hey, is there anything that is coming up with your congregation that we should know about or going on within the city? I know a couple of years ago I was thrilled to go to your Easter event, and I've gone to a couple of other activities, but anything that you want to make us aware of?
Oh, thanks for asking. You know, we've been blessed to be able to meet during a lot of this recent time, and have been grateful to not have been real strongly impacted in terms of COVID in our congregation. So really excited about that. And we're just getting ready and gearing up to start our kids programs back up again. And so you can be just thinking about some of that. We've been keeping them just with their parents in the services. The service have, you know, all the 6 feet, you know, separation between family units and all that kind of stuff. But we're just gearing up to allow kids into their classrooms again. And so you could just be thinking about us through all that. I'd appreciate that. Any prayers and thoughts. We want to keep people safe. But other than that, you know, the next big thing, of course, we're going to be coming up on Easter. Before that, we have a Financial Peace University class that we're going to be offering in February. I don't know how many of you guys have ever been through that, but just a fantastic class that Dave Ramsey puts together. Many people maybe listen to his radio show or have been through that before, but we'll be offering that in February. We have a parenting class toward the end of January that we're trying to do just to give people some wisdom on what to do with our kids these days. So there's a lot of different stuff going on, and you know, we try to make everything that we do as free as possible so that we can you know, there's a lot of people that give pretty generously in our congregation, and we try to use that to benefit those that can use some of those classes and things to be able to attend those without paying. So yeah, so we have a couple of those things: financial planning, parenting. We have some classes and things coming up on that.
Are those open to people outside of your congregation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everything we do, we try to make it as available and accessible as we can.
Great.
And you do a great job. It is
Thank
really,
you.
really great.
Oh,
I
thank
have
you.
always felt welcome there.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I have as well when I've attended. I got your number. I will reach out to you on a couple of those things.
Great.
I think I know some people that may be interested in a couple of those classes.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's all for me. Appreciate the time.
Hey, thank you so much for that prayer. We need it in these times especially. So, and thank you for all that you're doing in our community, for sure. Let's go to the next item, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. I will stand and recite the pledge, and if you'd all do likewise with your hand on your heart or salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is the open session. This is an opportunity for anyone that may be joining to voice thoughts, concerns, praises, whatever might be on your mind. We have on the screen the dial-in number, the meeting ID, the passcode. I will look for hands to be raised. Press #9 to raise hand, #6 to mute or unmute, and I will see if there's anybody joining. I will give it a few minutes to see if there's anyone that may want to voice anything. We would just encourage you to keep your comments to 2 or 3 minutes. So that open session is now available. I don't see any hands raised, so unless I get a notice otherwise, then we will move forward. The first item on the business part of the agenda tonight is a public hearing, the plat amendment and easement vacation on the Smoot Farms Estates, Plat A at Adam Beckstrand. Council, or sorry, staff, I'm looking at two possibilities here on the screen. It looks like it's going to be Corey. You're going to give us some background on this?
Yes, Mayor, I'll be presenting the staff report quickly to you. You should have attached in your document, I'll bring it up. Hopefully you can see that. You see a couple of lots here and the Smoot Farms Estate. Mr. Beckstrom and the Waldens have agreed to adjust their lot line. If you look in the center of the map, you can see the existing line to the left with the utility easement, and you see the proposed line to the right, closer to the house on your right-hand side. That's the Walden property. They'd like to adjust that line and move the public utility easement. So this is a little different than you've seen recently. There's a little bit more notice period that takes place and a decision that you have to make on moving a public utility easement. So I'll go over that requirements. Your first, there's basically two simplified things that you're looking at to allow a plat amendment. The first one is there good cause? And that's a pretty broad term. What are the causes? And at this point in time, the two parties are agreeing to this lot line change. We have affidavits from both parties requesting this lot line change. And so you get to decide, is that a good enough cause? Staff doesn't have an issue with that being a cause since it's an agreement between two property owners. The other ones is where we have to notice a little bit more, and it takes the applicant a little bit more work, is this public utility easement. They'd like to vacate the current location and move it to the new property line. And if you look in your packet, they have contacted all the utility providers. The majority of them see no need to maintain the easement because they are not currently using it. However, two utilities are currently using the public utility easement. It is Rocky Mountain Power and Comcast Communications. Also in your packets, you should have written letters from both of those utilities indicating that they are comfortable with the change and location of the easement. However, the property owners are going to be doing that, moving those lines at their expense, and any damages to their lines will be also at their expense. And so they are comfortable with moving the utility easements. And so that sums up your two criteria that you find in the subdivision ordinance, looking at plat amendments. There's a third item we've identified in the staff report, simply to look at the base zone, which is currently residential low, and to make sure that we are meeting the base zone elements, in this case, the setbacks and the lot frontages, and they continue to maintain the expected parameters by that zoning. So we've provided a potential recommendation for approval to you in our staff report, if you so find, and that's our recommendation to this point.
Does the council have questions for Corey on this, from any of what he's just presented or any of the materials in your packet? Corey, to our knowledge, and I guess also Lisa and Brent, we've gone through all the necessary legal to see that everything's in order, right?
We did publish a notice. McKinsey published a notice for us for the vacation. So we met the 10-day requirement. That's the additional requirement for relocation of easements.
Okay. Is there any member of the public that has any comment on this?
Mayor, the applicant is on the call. You might want to hear from the applicant first and then open the public hearing.
Okay.
Adam Ekstrom.
Applicant, I guess that would be Adam Beckstrom. Is that correct, Adam?
That's right, Mayor Wilkinson, and thanks for the opportunity to meet with City Council today. I just want to express appreciation for the staff and everybody that's involved. Ms. Romney, Corey Snyder, Ms. Wood. Your staff has been extremely professional in helping me to move this along and to review things. They've been responsive, and I just appreciate their help. They've served me as as a resident of Centerville very well. So I appreciate their help. And if there's any more comment that you need from me, I'm happy to chime in. But otherwise, I just want to say thanks to everybody for helping us kind of get things to where they need to be. There's a lot that needs to get done, and there's been a lot of work that's gone into it. So I appreciate everybody's help.
Thank you, Adam. Stay with us because we'll go to a public hearing in this matter, and as to see what the public, if they have any comments and any questions after coming out of it. So if council doesn't have any further questions at this time, then we will go to the public hearing part. This is a public hearing on plat amendment and easement vacation, the Smoot Farm Estates, Plat B, brought forth by Adam Beckstrom. So I will now open the public hearing to any member of the public. Once again, hopefully can we get up on screen again? There it goes, of the way to make comments on this. You have the dial, the meeting, the passcode. I'll look for raised hands, press #9 to do that, and we'll determine if there's any comments. So I'll give it a few minutes for people to figure out the system. So like I said, the public hearing on this matter is now open.
Welcome. Is this me raising my hand?
Yes, go ahead. You're good. Identify yourself and where you're from. Sorry, we'd appreciate that for the record as well.
Oh, you're good. My name is Joe Vance, and Adam and I have already spoken. I've spoken also with the Waldens. We're just kind of acknowledging ourselves as an interested party in this. My wife Stacy and I are actually purchasing the Walden property, and we're intending to close here soon. And it's just my own wanting to understand more the permanence behind what goes on today in this meeting. We still have some other things that we're trying to work out with the Waldens and the Beckstroms in this process, and just want to acknowledge ourselves as an interested party. So I guess my question to the council and to you, Mayor, is whatever gets decided upon today, understanding just how permanent that is for us, then to go and meet with the Waldens and the Beckstroms after the fact, for further negotiations on our part, as being under contract right now with the Waldens to purchase that property. And I don't know if I've explained that very well. I'm not trying to wax philosophical here with you. I'm just trying to be understanding.
You have explained it. We will go from after the public hearing and have more discussion on this matter. Then the council will do a vote to approve or disapprove it. So I'm looking for any. Thank you, Joe, for your comments. I'm looking for further comments on the public hearing.
Mayor, this is Mike Walden. I don't know if I raised my hand the right way here. Is that okay if I
You're
speak?
good. Just chime in. Yeah. So you're good. Go ahead, Mike.
Great. I'll echo what Adam said. Thank you very much for all the help we've gotten through this process. And I just want to acknowledge the Vances as part of this as well. I think it's fair for me to jump in. Adam has done most of the work here, but certainly we want to make sure that the Vance's interest in this is acknowledged. I'm glad that he is here and spoke up. I just kind of want to throw my voice in there as well to say that we're going to consider all interested parties, including the Vances and especially the Vances, given the transaction that I have underway with them. So certainly we want the city's approval so that we can continue the process, but we want to do it the right way and make sure all the interested parties are getting what they signed up for here. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I don't have a question. Simply want my voice as probably the third member of this interaction to be heard. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Mike. Public hearing is still open.
Mayor Wilkinson, I just want to make sure, it sounds like there's going to be some discussion among the city council. If they need any more information about, kind of background or, what's happening between the Waldens, the Vances, the Beckstroms, I'm happy to provide that. Right now, Joe, my understanding is Joe is asking whether the city council's decision to approve this is final to the effect that nothing else needs to be done. My understanding is that myself and Mr. Walden need to obtain signatures from every utility company, from the deed of trust holders, ultimately at the end of the day, that I and Mr. Walden will need to sign the completed plat amendment. So the city council's decision is simply, we're either going to approve and say that the parties have done everything that they need to do from a city council's perspective, but it does not effectuate the ultimate completion of this. There's a whole lot of other steps that need to take place, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. My understanding is that this is one hurdle, this is one step that we need to clear. And in my opinion, and hopefully Mike and Joe share that opinion, is to help us all to get everything resolved between us and help the property, all the property be moved and transacted the way that we agree to.
Yeah, Adam, you're the applicant on this, so we will come out of the public hearing and we will have further discussion on this. So thanks for bringing that up. But right now we're just hearing from the public. We're going to come back out of it and have a discussion before any vote.
Sorry for stepping out of turn at first city council, and I apparently didn't follow the procedure. I apologize.
You're good. Yeah, I'm looking for if there's any further members of the public. I don't see any further, so I will now close the public hearing and we will come back for discussion. I for one would be, based on items that were brought up in the public hearing, would be interested to hear from Corey or from our city attorney on, so for council's knowledge of what the potential buyer has expressed as their concern, and the potential seller as well. Lisa, could you address that, or Corey?
I defer to Lisa unless she wants to kick it to me.
I'm happy to address that. Yeah, we have another interesting situation where two property owners have applied for an application to adjust their boundary line, and somewhere during the timeline, somebody has entered into a contract to purchase one of those properties. So in reviewing the ordinances, though, again, I'm going to say, in my opinion, it's a private matter for the property owners and the new interested buyer, to work these things out. Under the city ordinances for a plat amendment, it does say that the any property owner, as shown on the current county assessment. So right now, the current property owner are the Beckstroms and the Waldens. And so I think that legally the city is obligated to consider this application from the two current property owners. And staff's recommendation is that it meets our ordinances and can be approved. Now, I think what Mr. Vance, the potential buyer, or the buyer under contract is asking is, what's the effect of tonight's decision? And I think I agree with Mr. Beckstrom. The tonight's decision is just approving the plat amendment, which allows all of the paperwork to go forward. But again, the plat has to be prepared and signed by all property owners of record, including the lien holders. And that's where it will be interesting at the time of plat recording. As I've mentioned to the parties, we will request a second title report. So we've reviewed the title report right now, and the property owners of record are the Beckstroms and the Waldens. When it comes time to record the plat, we will again request a title report with that date and find out who the property owners are, and they will need to sign the plat. If parties are under contract, again, that's sort of a legal quagmire for, I believe, the parties to come to terms with. So staff's still recommending approval of the plat. Obviously, the parties have some things to work out, but.
Thank you for that clarification legally, Lisa. Council, questions for the applicant, Mr. Beckstrom, or for any of our staff?
I don't, Corey, if you want to add something to that.
No, the council hears from me all the time.
Well, then I would motion that we approve the plat amendment as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman McEwen, a second by Councilwoman Ivy. Any further discussion from council? If not, then we will enter into a roll call vote. I will start with Councilwoman Meekum.
Aye.
Councilman Ince.
Aye.
Councilman McEwen.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Aye.
And Councilwoman Fillmore.
Aye.
That motion passes 5-0. We thank all the interested parties that were involved, and we hope that through our staff and both our community development director and our attorney that we answered some of those questions. So that motion, like I said, does pass 5-0. Thank you for everybody that participated. Item number two on tonight's agenda. This is a public hearing on another public hearing matter because it is a budget amendment on the fiscal year 2021 budget amendment. Jacob Smith, you want to give us a little background?
Yeah. I think I'll start by talking about revenue here, the purpose behind this budget amendment. And thank you, Mayor and Council. And I'm happy to say I have good news for you. Revenues are ahead. They're quite a bit further ahead of what we projected when we passed the budget initially. All of you know that because we've made several amendments as we've gone through the year. And rather than continue the practice that we've had where every single month we bring a budget amendment, we've done some projections based on some information that we've already, or some numbers we've already received and what we're expecting to receive. If we could bring up the sales tax history, I think this would be the best way for me to explain. So I don't know if Brant, you have it, or Janet, if you guys could put that up. It's the first attachment. There we go. Okay, so looking at this graph, what I did was I put on here our FY 2019 as well as last year's. And then this year up to 6 months is our actual. And then I'll explain the remaining 6 months here in a second. So you see there the blue line, that was FY 19. Last year we had FY 20. And what we had budgeted for FY 21 was actually 30% below the red line. Now you see the actual numbers, the green line there, up until December. We've exceeded both those years, 2019 and 2020. And I've got the actual numbers there. So 2021, we've got $2.45 million. Last year it was 2.2 at the same time. So we're $250,000 ahead of last year, and we're quite a bit higher than we had budgeted for. That's a total different number. And of course, that shifted as we've made these budget amendments throughout the months. So what assumption has been made here on the remaining 6 months of that green line is exactly what happened in 2019, which are low numbers. So you see that that slope matches on both of those. Based on that, if you were to continue that, you could see that the estimated would be 4.5 million. So keep that in mind. These are just our sales tax numbers. And I'm happy to tell you, of course, RAP tax follows this exact same curve. And our transportation tax has been looking this healthy as well. All right, so if we can go to the budget amendment document now, then the proposed budget amendment, January 2020. Okay, so what we're proposing here, staff is proposing for the budget amendment for revenues is an increase in the sales tax, as well as the related admin overhead fees from the enterprise funds, depending on what the expenditures are that we're adding back into the budget. You also see in here, there's a reduction actually of the unrestricted fund balance, and you'll see why that is, because we have so much more extra revenue, we're able to cut that down almost entirely. Some of that use of unrestricted fund balance, if you'll remember, is Whitaker Fund. Used to be Whitaker Fund funds for the building that were from last year that were moved to this year. So that's a use of that fund balance, and that's how we keep track of that there. So that's our revenue. So things are looking good there, and you'll see that throughout all the different funds that you see here in this budget amendment in the increases. So you see the sales tax one. Later on, you'll see there's an increase in the RAP tax one, and there's there's an increase in the transportation fund as well. Now the expenditures, we'll go to the other side, the proposed expenditures. All of these were expenditures that when we were early in the budget process, we've gone through it as staff with the directors, as well as the city council, a few work sessions. This was a tentative budget. And so these items were added back. And to explain them quickly, we'll start with the Justice Court. And you'll see this throughout. There is, if you remember the compensation study, we're calling this the compensation study phase 2. So you'll see some of those increases here. That was for some of the management positions that were brought up 33% to where they should be. And this is the second 33%. And let's see, so that's the case for the Justice Court. Administration, you see some of that there. We also have added some services back. There's the tuition reimbursement, increase that back to where it was at. The Christmas, that's to cover bonuses that were given out in December for Christmas. There's the wellness one, whatever we decide to do with that. And there's an increase there in the website with the new Civic Plus website. And then attorney, of course, the same thing with the compensation study. And finance, this is adding back the finance director position. And this is just for the remainder of the year. So it's not as large of an increase, but you see that there. And there's a corresponding reduction in the audit services contract, which that's actually our CPA services. Now, some other ones, emergency management, we have to account for some of the deductible we're going to need to pay for the windstorm that happened back in the fall. So that's sitting there. Normally we would take that, we'd probably use council contingency, but we don't need to in this case. We have enough revenue and we can just put the expenditure in where it's at. There's some events that are added back in there. Not saying that they're going to happen, but they're appropriated for. So if they do happen to happen, we have those funds available. And so there's the spring conference for the youth council. If that happens, 4th of July for the youth council. Later on, you'll see under the parks that we have 30,000 for the 4th of July event. The Easter egg hunt, there's 1,000 there. Police, those increases are all the compensation study, mostly sergeants, as well as a handful of police officers. And let's see, continue on down. Okay, the capital equipment. So what you see there is the evidence room, as well as a container. Let's see. And actually the number I have here is slightly different. It's 146,400. So a storage container is $2,900. So there's an additional 2,900 there. Let's see if you keep on. Oh, we have a retirement. We have some retirements that are happening here. This is, so it kind of crosses screens. Public Works admin. So this is to pay for a payout on accrued leave balances in Public Works. We all know who that is. So we need to budget for that one. That one's pretty big. You go down to streets, continuing the compensation study increases, as well as funding for an F-550 with the plow. So that's what's there. And this kind of continues that $200,000 investment into replacing the aged street equipment. So this continues that program. And the parks, there's three things there in their capital equipment, in addition to the compensation study. There's a trailer, a crew truck, and then the 11-foot mower, which the current one is on it. It's at the end of its life. So this is a pretty necessary purchase, according to Bruce. Movies in the park, this is for half of the summer, the 2,100, if that happens. And then of course, I mentioned before, the 4th of July celebration, that's adding back to 30,000. Let me explain a little bit the increase, because normally we've done 25,000, but that's because we've merged the accounts, the bank accounts. So there's no longer a fund balance in the 4th of July. Now it's just the general fund. So rather than always using that fund balance, we're just going to budget about how much they used of that fund balance into the actual line. So it's a little more transparent, and I mean, those are the real actual numbers of what they spend on average for the last, I think it's 5 years. And then there's some things we added back in there for our aging buildings. So you'll see there, Public Works facility. You also see in City Hall, we've increased some of those lines for carpet and paint, the elevator repair. We got a significant one there, replacing those chairs that have the nails poking through. Some of the folding tables that are just falling apart and used to be white and turning brown. Some carpet here and there that needs to be fixed, as well as paint and blinds and the front door. Okay, and then the Whitaker home. Now this is related to RAP tax, because 5% of the RAP tax goes to the home, the Whitaker home. And so this shows that increase. That's what that is there. And then of course, in community development is the compensation study. So if we go, we'll skip the RDA because we'll do that later in a public hearing a little bit later. And then the next fund that we have down there, I believe, is the RAP. Yeah, RAP tax. So this just shows the increase in the revenue, and then the increase in that percentage that goes to the various areas, to the center point who need it at this time. I'm glad that we can give them a little bit more, as well as the Whitaker and of course the parks. And then the other funds, if you look at them, we have, and they're all related in this way, the transportation, the water fund, our sanitation fund, and the drainage fund. What we're doing there is we're increasing the amount that we have available to do the citywide projects. So Kevin will identify those later, of course, in the spring, what those are. So now we have a little bit more for those. Now you have your general fund administrative service fees, because a lot of the things in the general fund that we pay for general fund can be charged to the other funds. You see that reflected in the increase in the administrative service fees. So, and transportation is the one other one. We increased the revenue in the amount of sales tax that we received in the transportation related expenses. And you can see the capital projects there has been increased by that same amount than what we project. And I'll tell you, all these revenue projections, they're very conservative. I'm very confident that we're going to hit these numbers. We'll probably go above those. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
So Jake, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Of these amendments and the increases on the expenditures, are there any that come from the CARES fund?
From the CARES fund?
Like capital
Oh,
project, paint, blinds, front doors. Is that from CARES fund?
No, these are non-related to COVID. So the doors themselves, when we replace those doors, are not COVID eligible. And we had some hiccups in there. This is one of those things that was budgeted last year, was kind of cut out and then put back in because most of it could be covered by COVID. So this is the remaining portion.
Okay, and then on like trailers, crew trucks, evidence room, just kind of these capital project stuff. These are things that have just come to our attention, things that have worn out or that we've needed to do, or
Yeah, well,
that we'd cut out previously on a couple of them.
Yeah, these were part of the discussions we had last spring about some of the needs for each of those various departments. Yeah, things that have worn out. The evidence room, for example, what we have right now, it's too small, it's not secure enough. And there's other issues too, where it's at in the building. And this 40,000 will help. And there's more plans when it becomes more developed. Chief Child can talk about what he's doing with that 40,000.
That's my questions. Council might have more.
Yeah.
Council, any other questions for Jake? If not, then I guess I'm looking for
I did have one. I was having trouble getting unmuted. Jake, do you have a comparison of this updated budget to what an unaffected 2019 budget would have looked like?
So we had the actuals for 2019.
Yeah, but 2019.
Right, for FY 2019, is that what you're referring to?
No, I mean, I'm sorry, I meant 2020.
Okay, so
what 2020, what budgeted 2020 looked like before COVID hit us.
Can I clarify, Councilmember Rance, are you looking for what we were discussing in March on what our budget we had proposed in March for the FY21, which is what we're currently in, or last year's fiscal budget? Because that's actuals.
I was looking more last year, 3/4 of the way through the year, or 60% of the way through the year, February, before COVID hit us, where we thought 2020 was going to be compared to where we're looking now.
Okay. So
but I'm not trying to hold it up for that. It's something, if he doesn't have it and it's not too hard to create, it's something I would be interested in seeing.
We're going back to what Jacob created with the sales tax history. Now, March is when COVID impacted us. And so Jacob has included that month, just happened to include that month here. So in 2020, we had collected 3.3. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Any of this, Jacob, is 3.375 is what we had collected to March FY20, so last year. And our estimate so far this year throughout this fiscal year, we estimate 3.5. So we're ahead of the curve to March. Does that answer the question, Councilman Rins?
Well, and if you look at that, I could tell you one thing, that the FY20, the end of the year, the June, the 4.4 million that we collected there in sales tax revenue, we had budgeted for just under that, 4.4 million. So we barely went above what we had projected.
That was prior to us adjusting the schedule to our, lack of a better term, doomsday budget. We were at 4.
Right. So what I'm saying is do we have something that would that I could sit down and look at that said, as of the expected numbers for 2020, as of February 29 or 28, were this, and here is the updated budget for 2021. Now you've shown me, I've got that number for sales tax.
I think what would probably be the best thing for you is when we did the third quarter financial report. That was probably exactly the document you would need to look at, because it goes line by line and shows you at the percentage of what was budgeted, and you can look at the bottom line as well. And you can look at that net revenue over expenditures, and you can look at the revenue, the percentage we were at that point compared to what we were budgeting. So I can pull that up for you. I can send that to you.
If you would, I'd appreciate it. I don't want to slow down this process, but
And we have that document, and it's audited actual numbers.
okay.
So I have a
Thank you.
question regarding the windstorm cleanup costs that we're looking to throw in there. How much of that have we already allocated? Because I still see we've got some pretty large trunks down that are still in areas like the debris basin on Frontage Road. Is that 10,000 already spent? Is that going to be enough?
Yeah, it has been spent. The 10,000 is assuming a deductible. So at some point we're going to get reimbursed either by FEMA or by IRMA.
So right now we are, FEMA will cover what our insurance doesn't cover. So the 10,000s are deductible.
So are we considering ourselves done with our cleanup activities?
Absolutely not. So just even at Smith Reed Park here, Reed Smith Park, we were finally able to get a contractor to address those large trees that our crews just can't. So again, it's a timing issue, as many of us have found out with trying to get fence companies in, tree companies in. We're finally starting to see some of that cleanup activity that is just beyond our crew's capability. So no, we're not done.
But financially, there's no more impact.
Because of our insurance costs now.
Right.
We're just floating that cost right now, unfortunately.
Hey, good questions. Any other questions? Okay, I guess I'd be looking for a motion.
I would make
the public hearing, don't we?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. 2021 comes around, and I the marriage determination, I thought they did away with, and also public hearings, but it hasn't happened. So, so you are
And let's
right.
make sure that people know that just because we're passing money for the 4th of July doesn't mean that everything's reinstated back to normal.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for that, Councilwoman Ivy. Okay, I am so glad I have y'all. So let's go to the public hearing portion. So there is a public hearing now on fiscal year 2021 budget amendment. And that public hearing is now open. We will put the contact information up on the screen. And people can just chime in and speak, or I will look for raised hands. And there's all the information. So the public hearing is now open. Seeing no responses to the public hearing, I will close the public hearing. And now I will come back unless there's further questions and entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-01 with the updated fiscal year 21. No, wait. Fiscal year 20. Yeah, 21 budget amendments.
I'd second that, and making the statement that this does show that we had a commitment to that compensation study, and I think we followed through with that. I know there was some trepidation among staff members that we were going to do that. We weren't going to necessarily follow through. So any of those staff members who were concerned, yes, we were serious. We just had to sequence things correctly.
Thank you. Further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Just always good for, grateful for good news.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Fillmore. All right, let's go then to a roll call vote. Let's start with Councilwoman Fillmore.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Aye.
Councilman McEwen.
Aye.
Councilman Ince.
Aye.
And Councilwoman Meekum.
Aye.
That motion passes 5-0. Thank you so much. I'd like to move to item number 3, and then after we do item number 3, I'd like to look to pop over the RDA meeting, approve that amended budget, and then come back to council meeting. But we have, I think, people here from item number 3. This is the Spear Tip Master Services Agreement and scope of work. Brant, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We, over the past 2 months, we've engaged Spear Tip to oversee some monitoring services over our technology world, and they've done a phenomenal job at this point. As we're making some shifts and adjustments in our IT environment, it is beneficial. I believe it'd be beneficial, or staff believe it'd be beneficial if we continue these services for another 12 months to ensure that we, as we're making these adjustments in our infrastructure, that we don't have any vulnerabilities, but we're constantly being monitored. This decision, I did consult with Councilmember McEwen on these services. There might be other services out there that might be available, but at this time we feel Spear Tip would offer the best service in the short term as we're looking to make some changes. Other than that, we do have Ben Otten from Spear Tip on the line to address those very technical questions that Lisa and I cannot. If there's any questions about the agreement, Lisa is able to address those as well. But our recommendation is to enter into this, staff's recommendation is enter into this agreement with Spear Tip for 12 months at the cost of $2,000 a month, total agreement of $24,000. And you can see from the documents, they do provide a great array of services that would be very beneficial for Centerville in the short term. And I don't know, Councilor McEwen, if you have anything else to add.
I would just add that this is a reasonable price for the level of service that we're receiving. What you're basically doing with this agreement is you're augmenting your non-existent IT staffers in this area, right? I mean, we've got Lisa Bednarz, but this is not her area of expertise. And as the arms race continues inside the cybersecurity world, it's going to be very hard for us as a city to, being very pragmatic, to hire enough IT personnel to reach this level of protection. So this is one where I feel very comfortable with the contract relative to the services provided. We're getting a good deal.
Thank you, Councilor McEwen.
So as Brant mentioned, and thank you, Councilman McEwen, for those comments, we have Ben Otten here from Spear Tip for any technical questions in addition to your legal questions. So Council, any questions about the Spear Tip services?
Mr. Mayor, it might be interesting if Ben's willing just to give just a brief overview of what those services might be, if he's willing to share, just kind of give us a real executive summary.
I love that. And Ben, we want to make your night worth it. So go take it away if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So at a very high level, Spear Tip is a cyber counterintelligence company, and we help our partners through reactive and proactive services that address cybersecurity problems. We operate a 24/7 security operations center, so that's a picture of it behind us. And really what we would be doing for the city would be bringing in a technology stack that gives visibility across that IT environment and then monitors it on a 24/7 basis. So we're able to detect threats. You may have heard of different hacks and compromises Lately, some of the ones that are in the news are things like ransomware or the SolarWinds hack. All of these types of events our platform is able to address and prevent from actually inflicting harm on the IT environment.
Thank you, Ben.
Council, any other questions for Ben, Brent, George?
I was saying I'm willing to lead out on recommending approval of the master services agreement and the statement of work as recorded in the packet.
I would second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I am so glad that somebody is smart about this, because this is where I have no skills. So I'm glad to have them on board.
Okay, I'm going to do a roll call vote on this. Councilwoman Ivy.
Aye.
Councilman McEwen.
Aye.
Councilman Ince.
Aye.
Councilwoman Meekum.
Aye.
And Councilwoman Fillmore.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes 5-0. Ben, thank you for what you're doing, and your team as well too. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it and appreciate the opportunity to serve the city. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. So now let's, since while we were on the budget, we didn't want to have Ben wait any longer. So I would entertain a motion to go over to the RDA meeting so we can approve the budget there while we have Jake, and then come back to our council meeting.
So motion to adjourn the city council to convene the RDA with the intent to return.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? It doesn't sound like any. So let's move over to the RDA meeting. And I'm not going to get caught again, because I'm going to exercise caution here. I'm going to read the statement again. First off, roll call. It looks like we have all the directors here. Director Meekum, Director Entz, Director McEwen, Director Ivy, Director Fillmore are all present. In accordance with Utah Code 52-4-2074 of the Utah Open and Public Meeting Act, I have determined that conducting an electronic meeting of the Centerville City Council, of the Redevelopment Agency of Centerville City, with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. This determination is based on the facts and circumstances surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. Considering the continued number of COVID-19 case counts in Utah, meeting in an anchor location presents substantial risk to the health and safety of those in attendance because physical distancing measures may be difficult to maintain at City Hall. Great. So we will go to the, this is a public hearing item on the fiscal year 2020 budget amendment. But before we do a public hearing, Jake, do you want to talk about these changes in the RDA budget?
Yes, thank you. So these changes are a little bit different from the general fund amendments. These are related to the purchase of the home next to City Hall. Already in a prior amendment, we had budgeted for the purchase of the home. Now we need to do that within the RDA because that's where these funds were being transferred from. So that's what you see here. So we're increasing the use of the fund balance of $350,000. That's for the purchase as well as the work that will be done on Smith Park. And then on the other side, on the expenditure side, we show the purchase and the work that's going to be done on the Smith Park, and as well as the administrative fees. If you saw that in the general fund that were increased, this reflects that same increase. And that's that. And the way that we offset that, the way that we balance that is by changing our other obligations. And that's really it for the redevelopment agency budget amendments.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. I will move to a public hearing at this point, and then we'll come back if you do have any further questions for Jake. So this is a public hearing on the fiscal year 2020 budget amendment for the redevelopment agency of Centerville City. The instructions to be able to participate in this public hearing is shown on the screen. Anybody who wants to participate, because I don't see that there will be many, that you're welcome to just chime in. I also will look for raised hands. So the public hearing for this item is now open. Seeing no comments, I will close the public hearing on the fiscal year 2020 budget amendment, and I will entertain any questions. And if I do not hear any questions, we'll give you, see if there's any questions for Jacob on this. And then first, go ahead. Pretty straightforward. It appears there's no questions, so I'll look for a motion on this item.
I'd make a motion to approve the 2021 budget amendments as outlined in Resolution 2021-01 for the Redevelopment Agency.
I'll second that.
A motion from Director Entz and a second from Director Meekum. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll look for a roll call vote. Director Ivy.
Aye.
Director Fillmore.
Aye.
Director McEwen.
Aye.
Director Entz.
Aye.
And Director Meekum.
Aye.
That motion passes 5-0. While we got you here in the RDA meeting, let's do the minutes review and acceptance from the September 15th, 2020 RDA minutes and the October 6th, 2020 RDA minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes as outlined.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Sounds unanimous. I will now look for adjournment from RDA and a return to the city council meeting.
Motion to adjourn the RDA meeting and return to city council.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Welcome back to city council meeting. Okay, let's get caught up. Item number 4. This is the city council appointments to boards and committees. So Lisa Romney, our capable city attorney, works on this every year at near the end of the year, and she's pulled herself up on the screen. But so before I say anything, I'll let her talk about what she's done. Lisa?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, we went to this chart last year and also increased some of the terms of your appointments to boards and committees to 2 years or 4 years to coincide with your elective term. So this year, we really don't have that many positions to reappoint. So we do have, let me see if I can share my screen. I can pull the chart up. I don't have it up, sorry. Anyway, the only, thanks Janet. So the only one that really you need to vote on appointing is a new mayor pro tem, but you'll see I made a couple other corrections. So at the bottom there, I finally called Weber Basin. We did have Paul Summers as appointed by the governor. I confirmed with them this year that his term has been extended. So we just have the corrected dates there. That's not really anything that we have authority over, but I wanted to make sure our chart was accurate. And then also I called Bountiful and corrected their appointments to the Administrative Control Board for the theater. So you'll see the only other amendment there is for the mayor pro tem. And typically you can just recommend somebody. I didn't put anything in there, so it's up to you how you want to handle that and make a nomination. And But then with these amendments, staff's recommending approval of your first resolution of the year, Resolution 2021-1, approving your appointment list.
Thank you, Lisa. So I would suggest on the Mayor Pro Tem, I know in 19, it was Councilwoman Ivy. 18 is Councilwoman Ivy, 19, Councilman McEwen, 20, Councilman Entz. I don't know who before that, so it would be great if maybe Councilman Meekum or Councilwoman Fillmore could do Mayor Pro Tem for this next year.
It's not like
I'd be
it's that
glad to,
exhausting a
Mayor.
deal.
I would be glad to. I haven't had the opportunity.
I didn't think you had. That was what I was going to suggest first. I was going to suggest that Councilman Meekum serve as Mayor Pro Tem over the next year.
Well, I would nominate Robin for that role for Pro Tem for the next year, and hopefully it'll be an uneventful one.
Yes.
We have a second on that nomination?
Sure, I'll second that.
Go ahead.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm an
Hey.
aye for not, I'm not opposed. I just didn't do my mute very fast. So
Okay, we'll say unanimous then, Councilwoman Fillmore. So Councilwoman, so Lisa, you have that update on the chart where you can put Councilwoman Meekum as Mayor Pro Tem. Is there further discussion on this chart that Lisa's put together?
There is. Can we put it back up on the screen? Brent, can you throw that back up on the screen, or
Pull that chart that Lisa had up on the screen.
are the council appointments?
There
So
we go.
one of the things I'm looking at here, and I just want people to understand the context of my statement. This is not a reflection on Mr. Hansen, but I am very concerned that we have an appointment here that has been 24 years. It's not held by an elected official, and we're looking to extend it to 28 years total service. I'm pretty adamant that public entity board memberships should be held by elected public officials. And in this particular case, where Mr. Hansen has served for such a long period of time, that's very commendable and fantastic that he's been able to do that. I am concerned that we've turned this into a career versus the function that I'm interested in seeing is that it's held by an elected official. I don't know if I'm out in the night on that one. I mean, Mr. Hansen is well respected, does a good job, but if you look at this entire appointment list, if you scroll down just through it really slowly, you'll notice that all other positions apart from Mr. Summers, which is an appointment we don't make, are held by elected officials, and the duration of the appointment doesn't exceed the elected period of time for any of those officials. So,
yeah, George, I agree with that, George, and I've expressed interest in serving in that role. And my understanding is that I'll let Mayor speak for himself, but that he was trying to let his chairmanship finish up and wrapping up all the work on the big transition. But I agree with you that I think it's time to make that switch that we've talked about already in the past.
I mean, does that bring an extreme amount of heartburn to the rest of the council to thank Mr. Hansen for his service and move on to an elected official?
Any comments from anybody? I'll wait for other comments before I comment.
I guess my only comment, and I'm not sure that I'm opposed, but you're talking about a very detailed, challenging system that we've been given information in the past that he has background for. And coming up to date for any non-involved person in that industry is, in my mind, somewhat problematic. I recognize what George is saying. I'm not sure that we don't have some need to have an A and a B position.
Good idea. I know there is a lot of technical involvement there.
When you say an A and a B position, are you talking in an alternate, Councilman Ince?
No, not an alternate, maybe a voting and a non-voting. I don't know. Someone to bridge the gap as whether it's Tammy or whether it's someone else steps in. There's just a lot of technical background there, and it's my understanding that Dee Hansen has been extremely involved in that process. I actually believe that when this was discussed last time, somebody was going to reach out and talk to the sewer district and broach that question. Am I up in the night on that?
I'll tell you, I don't recall that, but maybe some of the other council do. At the time, this would have been a year ago, because that appointment, it's a 4-year appointment. That appointment was up again. And what Councilwoman Fillmore's recollection is very accurate. I actually talked with Dee Hansen, and they were finishing the sewer plant out in North Salt Lake. He was chair this past year. I don't know what the status is now. And he wanted to get through his chairmanship and also the completion of that plant. And then he was ready to step aside. He had indicated to me that he felt that was a year to 2 years. I put a call into him earlier today. I've not heard back from him. And so we know that it's going to happen soon anyway, according to what he told me a year ago. I do recognize his expertise there, but I also recognize that a lot of the other board members that are listed, if you look at that board, are council people or mayors or whatever from the other cities making up the sewer district that may or may not have expertise in that field.
You know, and to that point, Bill, I would say that expertise is a function of the district managers. You know, I came into the mosquito abatement district knowing absolutely zero about mosquitoes, but Gary Hatch makes it a point at his board meetings to set aside some time on the official meeting agenda to give some education components. I would hope that the sewer district has that as well, that they're doing with their board members, because board members do shift in and out. And some of the material I'm hearing as I'm serving basically a second term in the mosquito abatement board is stuff I've already heard from my first go around, but it's new to a lot of these other council members. I guess my question / statement relative to his expertise is, if he is that critical to functioning, why would not the district just pick him up directly as a consultant or an employee versus a board member?
That's a very fair comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that a requirement for board membership is expertise in the field. A board member is a different role than that. And not that it doesn't help, not that that's not a bonus. Like, we really appreciate when George brings his IT expertise, and we all have different expertise that we bring, but we also all serve in different roles where we learn as we go, and hopefully we're quick studies and are willing to put in the time to get educated about where we're serving.
And what you guys bring up is what Councilman McEwen brings up as far as Gary Hatch at the mosquito abatement. You have Del Wayman over there at sewer board. He's a resident of our city as well too. So yeah, he's kind of the one with that's over it, that's doing that instructing of the board, much like Gary Hatch does with the mosquito abatement, or Nathan Rich does with the waste management board that I sit on.
So Mayor, since you've got a call into Mr. Hanson right now, and you're the one who talked to him about it most recently, should we just go ahead and approve this and wait for an update from you at our next meeting?
If that's what the direction you'd like to go. Yeah, my question to him was going to be, hey, how'd you come on that completion of that? You had mentioned that it was a year, no more than 2 years. What are we looking at here? Kind of what I was going to talk with him about.
That seems reasonable to me. I wouldn't want to go and replace him without having talked to him, but we'd like to hear back from you about what your conversation with him is.
I would be inclined to say that I would be more inclined to wait on the action until the mayor has talked both to Dee and even potentially to Dal Wayman.
And Mr. Mayor, we just need to be aware that if there is going to be a change, we just need notice so we can prepare the resolution. This will require a resolution.
Correct. Yeah, I get it. And we were going to face this at some point because he assured me that he would not be serving the 4-year term.
So then would there be any objection to approving the council list, the appointments, striking the South Davis Sewer District from that list until the next meeting, or how would that function? Lisa popped on, so she has some viewpoint on that.
Yeah, technically you have adopted an ordinance, a resolution appointing D for 4 years through 2024. That resolution is required by statute. And so staff would also like the opportunity to review that statute as to your options for removal of a board member. In addition to, some of these other issues that the council has raised. But yeah, you would have to come back. Somehow he'd need to be removed and you would have to have a new resolution appointing someone else. But again, I would like to research your options on that and the procedure.
You're talking about you'd like to look at the resolution we passed a year ago, Lisa, is that what you're saying?
No, I have the resolution. I've got that up. It's more the statute.
Okay.
Again, board members on this type of board, it's set by statute, and there are some requirements on removal and vacancy.
Yeah, and again, I want to make sure that nobody, including Mr. Hanson, will probably watch this, so this is no reflection on the work he's done for the city. I just really look at the length of service and wonder why we've done that relative to this one position versus all others. And at this point, it seems to me it'd be good if we realign this with an elected official.
So in terms of staff recommendation, I would recommend that you approve this resolution with the recommended changes and the election of the mayor pro tem. And then we can certainly bring this back with additional action or staff research as well on the sewer district board appointment.
Yeah, that's staff recommendation. Do we, any further discussion, or somebody want to put a motion for it?
I'd make a motion that we approve the city council appointments as outlined, with the provision that there may be some additional changes coming.
Second.
As outlined, meaning with Robin as the mayor pro tem for this year.
I'm sorry, yeah, she was not outlined with the change that we've already agreed to, that the mayor pro tem is Robin Meekum.
Still have a second, Councilman McEwen?
Yes.
All right, we have a mayor and we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Wyatt threw my name in there because I was going to say, I will report back, not the mayor, but I guess that's me too. I'll report back next meeting on any discussion I've had with Mr. Hanson as well. All right, let's move to item number 5. This is to discuss possible ordinance prohibiting targeted residential picketing. And this is something that obviously has popped up recently because of the events of this year. This was initiated by 2 council members. So you guys want to speak on it? One of you, Councilmember McCune or Councilmember Meekum?
Sure.
I'll let George head out on this one. He's my smart friend.
Thanks. Well, as those who are listening or watching or in the work session, I did ask our state legislators if there was any intent to deal with residential picketing at a state level. And of course, that was a political hot potato that they were more than happy to step away from, citing the inalienable right to protest and to freedom of speech and things of that nature, which I do not disagree with. But I also believe that there's a time and a place, and there is certainly a place where it steps over into intimidation. And I think that your residence, your personal private property is your castle, and you have the rights to reasonable expectation of privacy within your home and to not be threatened. And I looked at the situation involving Dr. Dunn, who is not an elected official, is just a civil servant, although a very public-facing one due to her role right now, who had protesters who attempted to protest at her residence. And because Salt Lake City has an ordinance in place, the police were able to effectively control that situation and diffuse it fairly quickly in terms of showing them where they could stand and how far away from the residence they had to be. By contrast, you take Dr. Minor, who is also a non-elected public health official, whose city doesn't have that ordinance, where people were out on his front yard screaming and coming up and knocking on his door and demanding that he come out and talk to them. Those are 2 different ends of the spectrum, both of them involving individuals who, frankly, I don't think should have had anyone protesting at their home due to the situations that were out there. And in Centerville, since the state is not going to take this up, I really think we should give our police department the ability to enforce the targeted picketing to allow people to have free speech rights, but to also prevent our residents from basically living in fear in their own residence of somebody threatening to picket or target them as an individual for their role, whether that's a civil servant or otherwise. Now, I'm not saying we are going to get the same protection. Public officials, I think, have a little bit of culpability in some of the protests that come along, but I do think that private individuals shouldn't be subjected to that, especially when they're just performing functions of their employment. So that's kind of where we wanted to go with it. I've obviously with my work, I feel pretty strong about this, and knowing some of the individuals that this has happened to directly, I guess I'm a little bit more passionate about it. And frankly, I don't think we're ever going to need it in Centerville. But I would prefer that our police have the tools necessary to maintain tranquility in our neighborhoods.
Unfortunately, George, I'm not as confident as you that we won't have it. I agree with what you said otherwise. I think we have a very good potential to have it because of certain things.
Well, I was hoping for some pie-eyed optimism for 21, but I'll take the cold water.
Well, I was contacted by a newspaper today about something that I voted on recently, brought by a resident. So,
okay. Well, I'm sure that if we proceed down this road, I'm 100% confident Lisa will get us a balanced resolution that gives us the right mix. But I'm just signposting ahead of time. I wouldn't expect that the public officials are going to get the same level of protection.
So this discussion is to discuss about a possible ordinance prohibiting this. My question on this particular issue is, and Councilman McEwen addressed it in the work session as well too, that with elected officials and someone who's just a member of the community, I agree completely that it's a different ballgame, that the members of the community especially shouldn't be subject. My question on this is looking at some of the ordinances that have passed in other cities is if you're having to move so far away from the person's home that they're picketing, and they can be down the street aren't they in front of somebody else's home, and then they're annoying somebody else rather than that person's particular home, and that's one question I had on it.
I think that's a very valid and fair point. My hope would be is that with this sort of ordinances, and especially looking at the Salt Lake instance that took place, people will learn that there's an appropriate time and place for your voice, and it's not threatening people at their home. And so that doesn't remove the rights of the next door neighbor to call the police and say, get them off my lawn. If anything, it potentially can move a protest to an appropriate zone. And really, this is the tough balance that we have, which is how do we allow people to express their frustrations? You go back and you look at some of the famous cases that in the 70s and 80s, and protesting at someone's home was not an uncommon thing. That happened quite a bit. But communities have really soured to that because it does create a lot of problems. So I don't know. This is where we turn it over to the legal mind of Lisa to help us out when we get to that point. But I think we should proceed down that route. I really think that it's worth the exploration to come up with a balanced ordinance that gives us the tools necessary. And if Bill, if you're right, if it's coming into our community, I'd rather not do what I've seen other communities do, which is be reactionary and put it on the books after an event has happened. That's the worst way to do legislation of this type, in my opinion. We should anticipate it and do it without a ton of emotion associated with it.
You're absolutely right.
Nice. Good luck, Lisa.
Thank you.
So do I take it, unless council members have other comments that you want to get, you're in agreement to have Lisa take a shot at it?
Yep.
I am.
Well, I'll put it in a formal motion just so that we have it on record. I would motion that we direct staff to draft a targeted residential picketing ordinance to be available for adoption and public review at our next city council meeting. Did I give you enough time, Lisa? I just made a commitment for you without asking, sorry.
Yeah, we can meet that.
A motion by Councilman Pugh and a second by Councilwoman Ivy. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna vote aye just because, sorry, Lisa's gonna have to spend the time anyway. But of course, I'll be very interested in hearing legal opinion from staff and what other cities have done and challenges.
Thank you, Councilman Fillmore.
Not only challenges with an ordinance like this, but the question that comes to mind for me is, we'll just discuss it more later, but is this needed, or are there other possible solutions? Such as if the picketers aren't in the street, but on the private property, then that's a private property and trespassing issue.
Well, I think, Tammy, to your point, we should probably ask the chief to be at the next meeting to give us his unvarnished read of what the ordinance could do for us, and if he sees that it's problematic, because Lisa and Paul are great experts in what they do, and I would appreciate their counsel on this.
I wonder if we want to ask for feedback from them before we have Lisa spend the time.
I would suspect that there's a chance that we may not get it done at the next meeting, that the next meeting ends up being a resolution of differences and the final one is the following. But I think we should charge forward.
And just so you know, I mean, there are a lot of samples. I won't be reinventing the wheel. I mean, we can look at what works and, you know, some of the case law, but certainly I think most of the ordinances are following language that's already been tested in the courts. So I think it's not too much of a burden to at least put a draft of something for you.
Okay, that's great to hear. Thanks.
And Lisa can talk to Paul in between as well.
Yeah.
And her dog as well.
Somebody second that.
All right, thanks, everybody. Item 6, open and public meetings training. This is one that, let me get to that. It's required annual training. This is initiated by Janet, our city recorder. So Janet, you're addressing this, or Lisa addressing it? What do we got here?
Can I ask a question? I tried to get on and take the course and it wouldn't allow me to enroll. Was I the odd experience? Because I've gotten on this website and done these courses before, and I have an enrollment thing and I have a password, and it just cycled back through and said enroll here and never allowed me to leave that screen.
Were we supposed to do this thing in the last little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're supposed to
Shame on
do
me.
it by December 31st, but the instruction on in our packet saying we need to do it by January 31st. I just clicked on it. It looks like you go to it, but you were able to get to it as well, right? Right, Councilwoman Ivy?
Yeah, I went to the website and then I clicked on the enrollment thing, and it would not bring up a place for me to put in my credentials to log in. It just cycled back and forth.
I went on and took it. I thought the state auditor's office, it's kind of a cute video, and I don't know, it worked for me, and I did have to just change my password. So you might
I went in and changed my password, but I couldn't, it wouldn't come up with a place for me to enter it. It wouldn't even allow me.
Sometimes if you use, Chrome versus Firefox, that makes a difference too.
Yeah.
But I can also,
I failed.
I can send you, another, well, I guess if it gets you to that link. But anyway, yeah, as last year, Leah gave you the open meetings training. So we're kind of transitioning the training from city attorney to the city recorder. And so, we told Janet that she could run with this and that there were lots of options. And I think her choice of having it be online this year was wise in that, we all have a lot of Zoom meetings. And so it's a 10-minute video. Like I said, I thought it had good information. It's a 2020 video. So the state auditor's office has just prepared this. And so we'll try to cycle, sometimes live training, sometimes online, and then maybe every few years we can have somebody come in that really knows what they're talking about and are entertaining. So, but anyway, I'm glad to hear that not very many of you have taken it because you have had training for 2020. So if you get this done in January, we will be done with 2021 as well.
So Lisa's been
Janet, did you want to add anything?
Lisa's been successful. Stephanie's tried. Doesn't sound like the rest of us have tried. Let's try and all our deadlines by the end of the month. Let's try and all by next council meeting report we did it, and then we can shame everybody that didn't.
Yeah, and send Janet your certificate because we do need to keep track of that. And when you finish it, it just says, "Do you want a certificate?" And you say yes, and then I think you can even say, "Yeah, email it to me," and you can forward that to us.
Okay. So everybody, you've been warned that we and council to get this done by January 31st. And it sounds like doing it maybe this year, Lisa, is better because then we're covered for 21, right?
Well, I don't want to brag, but I already did it.
Oh my goodness.
I just didn't want to send,
Good
I just didn't
brag.
send the certificate in yet.
Way to go.
Good job. Gold star for Tammy.
Yep.
Way to
I am
go.
a straight A student, you know, so.
Well, I didn't know stars were involved. I was just logged in.
Don't forget to turn in the homework though.
Okay, I will get to it by the end of the month. I didn't do it last December. I was busy with 40 hours of CPE for CPA business. So I'll do more training now on this. So, and I challenge the rest of you to do it as well. So thank you. Okay, no more on that. Let's go to the minutes review and acceptance from the December 15th, 2020 City Council meeting. Any changes? If not, a motion to accept them.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Do we have a city council report from council member Fillmore?
Yeah, we've made some exciting progress on the master plan for the South Davis Rec District. So at our last meeting, we just approved the master plan that was done for us by the consultant. And we have a schedule where we will start unveiling that to the public and asking for public comment on it. And so you'll see that coming soon.
Excellent.
And then as far as on parks, I meant to email Brant about this and I don't think I did. I was going to ask if maybe the staff would have ready yet a report on the concern about sledding on the Island View Hill. But other than that, I don't have anything on parks.
That was mentioned at the last city council meeting, and we're discussing that internally. So yes, we are working on that. It hasn't been a huge issue at this point. This goes in the city manager.
No snow.
No snow. So we haven't pushed the issue as quickly. I apologize, but we'll have something for the next meeting.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Thank you, Councilman Fillmore. Anything else? Great. Next item is the mayor's report. Since our last meeting, obviously there's a couple weeks in there with holidays, but I do want to report that on the 17th of December, that the Centerpoint Theater board had an emergency meeting, and that was to discuss the budget that they had shown to the RDA, that is their approved budget by their board and by the RDA, but they came with a more serious budget, you know, if they didn't have any revenues in the first 6 months and that type of thing, and what they were going to do. They were very appreciative of the work that y'all did in forgiving the rent through all of 2021. The county commission allocated another $25,000 to help them out. And they really fine-tooth combed the budget and did a cash needs analysis or cash flow analysis that showed that the cash would take them out, even if they had no revenues, out for a period of close to 8-9 months. And then what else happened? Board member Ron Russell resigned, a former mayor of ours, because he has been nominated by Governor Herbert, and he will be a second district court judge And so you can't be on a board that raises money in that situation. So they're looking for some potential additional board members as well too. That's really the only meeting that I had committee-wise since because of the holidays since the last time we met. So that's really all I have to report, unless you have any questions for me on that or anything else. I'll have a bunch more before next meeting for sure. If not, that's my report. Item number 10, city manager report. Brent?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I only have a couple of items to report on. I sent that email regarding the homelessness, Councilmember Enns, that you had requested. I don't know if you needed any other information than what I had sent, or want to have a future conversation about that as an agenda item. We can definitely do that.
Okay. I have not spent time with it.
Okay. And then another item is, last year we had discussed, I believe in March, property tax increase for this potential upcoming fiscal year. And I believe at that time I had stated that the process, of we discussing this with our residents should probably start in January. And here we are, we're in January. So if that's still a consideration of the council, that's the marketing and information should be probably start going out here in the near future to start educating our residents on the need for the property tax increase, what that amount may be, those type of items. So just want to bring that up with you because that was on my calendar of a item to discuss.
Thank you.
Say that again.
Thank you for doing that.
So if there's still that desire from this council, I mean, it might be an agenda item for next council meeting to give the full motion and some direction. I just wanted you to be mindful of it. And if it's still interest, then we will do that, put that as an agenda item.
I think we should. We talked about this last year. In fact, it popped up on my calendar as well. I was like, oh yeah, we talked about a truth and taxation hearing. I think we should put it on there. And Tammy, you've talked about this for a couple of years, that it should be on there, even if we don't do something that raises the taxes. I think it's appropriate that we put it on here this year, especially.
So I've been working on some draft infographics. There's some ways we can do this. So we'll put it on the next calendar, next work city council meeting. Actually, maybe we can do it as a work session.
I think we should do a work session first.
Agreed. So we'll have that in an upcoming meeting, which also leads into the next item. Next week, I'll be working with the department heads to start developing our budgets for the upcoming fiscal year. I have a tentative calendar that I've established that I'll share with the department heads. It'll follow along the similar lines that we did last year. Our first meeting, the second meeting in March or so, is when we'll start presenting our budgets for the upcoming fiscal year. So about the same schedule will follow that we did last year.
So my recollection of last year is that the budget was certainly not approved, but 90% done when we were hit with COVID in March. And went to online meetings. Is that what everyone else recalls?
We had a balanced budget that we were presenting to council. We had presented, I believe every department head had an opportunity to present their items to the council. I'm sure all department heads presented their items or requests for the upcoming budget, but we had stopped short of continuing the discussions in terms of what we were discussing at that point. And then we actually started presenting the, again, lack of a better term, doomsday budget and stripping the budget of all those items. And that was presented and then approved finally at the end.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought I recalled.
So generally what the process that we take administratively is we generally want to present a balanced budget to you as the governing body. And if there's any tweaks or priorities this body has, then you're welcome to do so. It's just a matter if we want to add more to this department or this project, where do we take it from? And then that becomes this body's decision, the council's decision to proceed with that. But we'll present a balanced budget to you and we'll work with staff and department heads to get to that point. But having a property tax increase does change, how we present the budget. So what we'll do is, from an administrative side, is we'll essentially present the budget without the property tax increase included. And if the property tax increase is considered, then the council can decide what the emphasis of that property tax increase would go to at that point. That makes sense. Okay.
Makes sense.
All right. I don't have anything else to discuss unless there's any questions for me.
I have one other thing I forgot to report. The League of City and Towns is not doing the day at the legislature this year where we go up and the youth council goes up because of COVID. So that has been canceled. I know that some of you have gone up in the past and helped on that, but that is off. Those of us, I think that's you and me, Bill and Brant and Lisa, the league will be doing their LPC meetings, and I bring this up because of meeting with our legislators tonight and other reasons. And those will start the 14th, 11th, sorry, at noon on Mondays. So that's all. Okay. Thank you, Brent. Do we have a need for a closed session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do.
So
Okay.
I can give the motion for that. So a motion to adjourn the city council to convene a closed session to discuss the character or competence of individuals allowed by state law with no intent to return to public session.
And that link was sent to you via email from Janet.
Okay, so
I'll second the motion.
thank you, Councilman. So we have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
So look for